Every day we're faced with stories that seem impossible to explain. A child born into a life of pain, a family losing everything in a natural disaster, a good person who suffers injustice their entire life. And these stories, whether far away or close to home, leave us with a single question buried deep in our hearts. It is, perhaps, the oldest and hardest question in human history. If there is a God we describe as all good and all powerful, then why does he allow all of this to happen? This isn't just an emotional complaint. It's a sharp, logical paradox, an argument used by philosophers and skeptics for thousands of years to say that the existence of an all-good, all-powerful God and the existence of so much evil and suffering at the same time are logically incompatible. Let's understand their argument clearly. It's simple, and it's powerful. The argument goes like this. 1. If God is all good, he wants to prevent evil. 2. If God is all-powerful, he is able to prevent evil. 3rd, and yet evil exists. The conclusion they present, therefore, a God with these attributes cannot exist. When the problem is framed this way, it feels like a closed equation with no solution. A logical trap. Many people, because of the power of this argument, lose their faith entirely. They feel they have to choose. Either believe in a weak God who can't help, an indifferent God who doesn't care, or simply no God at all. But what if the foundational premise of this entire equation is the very thing that needs to be examined? This is where our compass comes in, the compass of logic. Our compass doesn't give us ready-made answers. It teaches us to ask the right questions. And the right question here is, what is the purpose of this life? The paradox we just saw carries a hidden assumption, that the purpose of this life is immediate happiness, comfort, and perfect justice. It assumes this earth is meant to be a paradise. But what if this premise is wrong? What if this life is just one very short chapter in a much longer story? Logically, the contradiction between God's existence and the existence of evil completely dissolves if 3 fundamental conditions are met. First condition, true free will. For life to have meaning, and for good to have value, we must have the ability to choose. You cannot program a robot to love and call it genuine love. True love requires the freedom to choose between love and hate. And much of the evil we see in the world, war, injustice, crime, is not God's doing. It's the direct result of humanity's misuse of this great gift, free will. Second condition, a higher purpose for life. What if this life isn't the final destination but a journey? A journey of testing, growth, and purification. Just as a muscle cannot grow without resistance, and a precious metal cannot be purified without fire, perhaps our souls cannot reach their highest potential without challenges and hardship. In this view, suffering isn't random punishment. It can be a tool for growth, a catalyst for humility, and a reminder that we need a power greater than ourselves. And the third, most crucial condition, a realm of absolute justice. The greatest injustice would be for the story to end here, for the oppressor to die happy and the oppressed to die in agony with no accountability. That is true meaninglessness. But if this life is merely the courtroom and not the final verdict, if there is another day, a day of judgment, where everything is weighed on a perfect divine scale, all rights are returned, all patience is rewarded, and all injustice is punished, only then does the picture become complete and absolute justice is achieved. Now that we have this clear logical framework, built on free will, a purposeful test, and a day of perfect justice, let's use it as a compass as we navigate the maps offered by some of the world's major religions. Eastern philosophies, with roots in texts like the Hindu Upanishads and the Buddhist Dhammapada, offer a cosmic solution, the law of karma and reincarnation. Your suffering today, they say, is the fair mathematical result of your actions in past lives. This map solves the problem of justice, but it opens the door to deeper logical questions. If my suffering is a punishment for a past sin, what was the first sin that started this infinite cycle of pain? And how can it be just for an innocent child to be punished for actions committed by someone else they can't even remember? The concept of divine mercy and forgiveness seems absent from this cold, cosmic calculation. Judaism, as we see in the book of Job from the Hebrew Bible, offers a different perspective. Job's story teaches that suffering can be a profound test of faith. When Job finally confronts God, he doesn't get a clear answer to why. Instead, he is humbled by the majesty of creation and God's power, which is beyond his comprehension. This position is one of reverence, but it leaves the seeking mind searching for a clear blueprint, feeling that a piece is missing. Is the final answer that there is simply no answer we can understand? Then we come to the Christian narrative, which begins in the book of Genesis. The story says that a single mistake by the first man, Adam, led to the fall of all humanity, contaminating the world with evil and death. This concept, known as original sin and found in the letters of Paul, claims we all inherit this sinful nature. Then, to solve this problem, the doctrine states that God himself was incarnated as Jesus Christ to die on the cross as a final sacrifice. This narrative, when placed under the lens of our logical compass, raises two critical questions. First, the question of justice. Does it align with the concept of a just creator to condemn billions for a mistake committed by a distant ancestor? This appears to be a clear case of one bearing the burden of another. Second, the question of efficacy. If this divine sacrifice was the ultimate solution that paid the price for sin 2,000 years ago, why do we see no results? Why is the world still plagued by the exact same evil, suffering, disease, and death? If the medicine was administered, why is the patient still suffering from the exact same symptoms? And here, we arrive at the map offered by the Quran. This map seems to be precisely engineered to address these logical problems. First, it completely rejects the idea of inherited sin. Surah Al-An'am states clearly, "And no bearer of burdens will bear the burden of another. You are only responsible for your own choices." Second, it confirms we are not in a post-solution world, but in the middle of the test. Surah Al-Baqarah tells us, "And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to the patient." This verse defines suffering not as a puzzle, but as a declared core part of the test's curriculum. Third, and finally, it provides the ultimate solution for justice. Surah Al-Anbiya promises, "And we place the scales of justice for the day of resurrection, so no soul will be treated unjustly at all." The day of judgment isn't a vague concept. It is the cornerstone that gives meaning to everything that happens in this life. This three-dimensional framework of individual responsibility, a purposeful test, and absolute, deferred justice offers a coherent solution that leaves no logical gaps. We have sailed through different maps, each offering a perspective on the puzzle of suffering. We've seen solutions built on cosmic retribution, on mysterious faith, and on a redemptive sacrifice. But the compass we use must not only point to external maps, it must also align with our internal compass, the compass of reason and our innate nature. Being intellectually convinced that there is a logical, purposeful design is the first step, but the next step is a deeper, personal journey. It is to transform this understanding into inner peace, patience, and a trust that everything that happens, even the pain we don't understand, is part of a grander story written by a merciful and wise creator. Perhaps the search for truth isn't about finding a life free from suffering, but about finding a suffering that is filled with purpose.